Oh, my chakra. The amethyst has fallen off my meridian.
Hiya, I'm Dom.
And I'm Misha.
And I have a chronic illness.
Me too.
So welcome to Anything Short of a Coffee Enema.
A podcast on which we'll discuss the things we do or have done to function.
And set each other challenges or tasks every time.
We are prepared to go to any lengths to achieve reasonable health.
Short of a macchiato, up your jacksie. I'm going to be reviewing, this episode, that's a word. I'm reviewing the idea of intermittent fasting that you challenged me to.
And I'm going to describe misadventures with a ketogenic diet.
Misadventures with fat. I'm going to be reviewing something, I don't know if it's called or if it's called EcoWorx. I think the company or the brand is EcoWorx, but the product is called which is KOH, which is a cleaning product, which I may marry. I love it that hard.
I have heard tell of this.
You're going to hear more tell of it, Misha.
I have a co-worker who also rants and raves about this.
I think it's a cult, and I think I accidentally got indoctrinated. But you know what? I'm happy to be here.
Yeah.
I'm in the cult. I'm loud and proud, and I'm going to talk. Look, I'm not going to try and convert you. I'm just going to discuss why it works for me.
Fair enough. And I've just had a flash of inspiration. I'm going to join...
I love inspiration.
I'm going to join your bandwagon and review an electrolyte drink.
Ooh, we can compare electrolytes.
Although a rather different one.
Oh, okay.
To the one that you did. So there.
Yeah.
So our next product suck-up is going to be, you've already waxed lyrical about the charms of Aquaforce.
Because it's the best electrolyte in probably the world thus far.
Now, I'm not going to make the claim that this one is better or the best or anything else. I'm just throwing it out there as a point of comparison. Mm-hmm. So this one's called Endura Hydrate. Generally, you can get it at chemists.
It's not quite as good as Aquaforce.
No. So you can get this one at chemists. It's not as tricky to get, I would take it, as yours, in the sense that you don't actually have to, say, order it
from directly the people that make it.
From directly the people, yeah. That's one thing.
I don't even think the website takes PayPal, so there is that. Right. If you haven't ordered them before and you're worried there's a risk, I've never had a problem.
Yeah. So, a little bit easier to get your hands on. Flavours, quite nice. Okay. So there's a lime and lemon, which is my personal favourite, but there's also a raspberry, which is not as overpoweringly sweet as these things sometimes
I like me a raspberry. It's my favourite fruit.
At all. Yours, if I remember correctly, was something like per serving 14 grams of carbohydrates, 12 or 14, something like that.
Did you want me to get it out to double check?
That's okay. I'm pretty confident it was somewhere in that range.
I don't remember. It was a while ago now.
This is 20, so more sugar, basically.
Is it glucose or is it sucrose mostly? And
glucose.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
Glucose is the one that you want.
Yeah. But even still, like if you're
it's still a lot of sugar. It's sugar.
The kind of the way in which they try and sell that is the Endura portion of the name Endura Hydrate. So theoretically, from a sports performance point of view, like carbohydrates are energy. It's trying to sort of do these two things. But then the rest is pretty much... And it's trying
to say that because glucose is the best form, that it's probably a slower release. Like, as in, for longer... Yeah, maybe. Look, I mean, that's not a legitimate claim. I'm asking if that's the claim they're making.
I don't think it's that specific on any of the packaging that I can see anyway. From a cost point of view and from a just pure quantity point of view, I think it might have yours a little bit beaten. Like it's 2.2 kilos, including packaging, and it's a little over $60.
Okay, yeah, it's probably better for cost.
So, yeah, I mean, again, if you can handle the extra sugar, I think purely from the point of view of if you're looking for maximum benefit from the electrolyte and mineral content.
How much do you use to make up like 500 ml or 250 ml?
So
it's the same amount?
A scoop that's maybe a third larger than yours.
Okay. So you might run through it a tiny bit quicker.
Maybe.
Okay.
A tiny bit. But I think yours is like 40 for a kilo. Is that?
Including delivery.
Yeah. Something about that. Yeah. So, cheaper.
Yeah.
Pretty much.
A bit cheaper, yeah.
Yeah. What else can I say about it?
Sorry, I interrupted you when you were talking about mineral content.
No. Yeah, great. Yeah, thank you.
Happy to interrupt you. Sorry.
I
So does everyone in the world.
I wasn't saying I know. I wasn't saying I know about the sorry part either. But your standard, like what you'd expect, basically, certain amount of sodium, magnesium, iron, zinc, few other
Calcium?
little things. Nothing
Not
to
really.
scream home about, I don't think. Like tracy amounts maybe. But that being said, like I think for a couple of things, for a budget conscious
it might
option,
work better.
if you're
Definitely.
not super concerned about the additional 6 grams of sugar.
I guess it depends on how much you're having electrolyte for the sugar or how much you're having it for the other stuff and the hydration, and whether or not the sugar matters at all to you.
Yeah,
And
that's right.
Again, an individual thing.
Yeah, most definitely. Like flavour-wise, remarkably good.
I mean, you're selling me on the raspberry, I've got to say. I do like me a raspberry.
It's quite a subtle kind of raspberry as well. Like it doesn't...
That's not selling me on the raspberry.
Okay, I've just unsold Dom on the
I
raspberry.
want lots of raspberry.
Not as intense as as you're probably picturing. Lemon lime though is actually really quite nice. Potentially reusable tubs as well because they're quite big.
Yeah.
So it just depends. Like the 2.2 kilo thing
So how do you buy it in the tub then? Because you said reusable. So what are you reusing?
What I mean is the tub is so big that there are ways in which you could think, hey, I can use that for something.
Oh, I can store my pasta in here or my beans or whatever.
Potentially, or like if you're in my situation, it's like Lego and the enormous quantities of paddle pop sticks that for some reason Oscar really likes having around.
Why do you need paddle pop sticks?
Because I don't fucking know. Because they make a nice noise when he throws them all over the floor to hear.
I mean, that's a reasonable reason. Do you have to eat the paddle pops first?
Unfortunately not.
What?
It's just like art supplies, you buy this gigantic bag of them and then he thinks it's...
Boo.
The entire process of parenting, Dom, is a combination of gypped and your entire internal monologue is basically boo. If I can save anyone the trouble out there.
Is it, and it's recyclable, obviously, the container.
Well, I mean, yeah, it's a gigantic black piece of plastic, but yeah, of course. I mean, I guess if you put it in the right bin, it theoretically is. I just mean that it's large enough that you could
reuse it.
Because one of the things I would think about those 1 kilo tubs is...
Oh, I don't reuse them, I recycle them straight away. Yeah,
but I mean, like, okay, you could use that to store flour, sugar, whatever else.
I have incredibly pretty glass jars for that.
Yeah, but I mean, if you
I like to be able to see what's in my storage containers, Misha.
Fair enough.
Is yours see-through?
No.
Well, then it probably wouldn't be reused in my home either. I do not have a need to store lots of paddle pop sticks, so maybe I'm just missing out on that way of storing things.
No. I'm not seeing an obvious chance for missing out.
I mean, I think you're definitely missing out on paddle pops, though. That sounds it.
Probably, yeah, that first crucial step. And then also type 2 diabetes in order to produce the volume of paddle pop sticks that Oscar demands.
This comes from a place of boarding school where the only ice cream and the best dessert we ever got was like once every couple of months you got a paddle pop. That was a blessed day, my friend.
What was the rest of the time? Like jam, roly-poly pudding or something?
No. Often it was jelly. No ice cream, just jelly. Or...
Ooh.
I can't even remember half the time. Or sometimes there'd be like some sort of indiscriminate cake/slice because you weren't really sure what it was. And it was in that family and you weren't sure if it had been a cake, it was now stale, or was just a really bad slice.
Or a failed piece of baking that was some...
Oh, no, it was always a failed piece of baking. I enjoy baking. That was a failure. It should not have been served up. Yep. Custard, but custard like from powder, which actually, and we get the skin on it. And I actually, for some reason, really enjoyed eating the skin bit of it, which I think I shouldn't be admitting in the public sphere.
Pretty unusual.
Yeah, that's a boarding school thing, definitely.
Yeah.
Anyway, now that we've spoken about my life.
Yeah, so, and I mean, the other thing I suppose about Endura Hydrate is now, to be perfectly honest, like I used to be really big on it. It used to be like absolutely part of my day was one scoop of that in some amount of water. But gradually, like my sort of caring for hydration version 1.0 was basically electrolyte plus I'm going to drink a certain amount in the day based on my body weight.
Yep.
That was the first thing. Now it's much more like minimum amount per day based on body weight plus a certain amount of Celtic sea salt is essentially all I do with that now. And don't really care so much about the micronutrient levels anymore, because it doesn't really seem to be super duper important, or doesn't seem to have a huge impact for me anyway. But as a easy way to kind of get into it, there is the kind of $60 or $63 outlay for the tub of it initially, but geez, it lasts
a while.
For a while, it really does. Especially if you're sensible about it. If you don't think about it as, this is some sweet thing that I'm going to drink.
It's not cordial.
That's right.
Yeah.
If it's just this is sort of semi-medicinal.
Although the amount of sugar it got, maybe it is cordial.
Well, practically. But if you do think about it as, one per day max, depending on what you're doing and what you're up to, you definitely do notice a difference.
If you're going to Sydney, you don't have to drink their water because it's terrible quality water.
Yeah.
Bring some of that along with you. Cool. So intermittent fasting seems to be, what you can do is do 16-8, which is 16 hours of a 24-hour cycle not eating, 8 hours eating. Or you can do one day, one 24-hour period, I think it's 24 hours anyway, out of every 7 or 12 or whatever it is that you want to make, basically. It's whatever makes you happy.
Just not eating.
Just not eating at all.
Yeah.
And because the thought of not eating makes me cry with just general sadness and being overwhelmed at how I don't want to live my life without food, I obviously chose the 16-8 option.
Yeah.
There is some thought that maybe for women you can do 15, insert other number here.
Yeah.
9, 10, whatever. 9. Whatever.
Yeah.
I can't do
15,
maths.
9 makes total sense.
But there you go. You can add.
If you're going for 24,
I couldn't add. So I did that, which just meant that I started eating at 12 and then stopped eating at 8.
Yeah.
And the reason I chose that time frame is because when I often don't get home from work until about 7:30 on my work days.
Yeah.
And if I had any other time, then I would not be able to eat dinner. By the time, that's just too much.
Yeah.
So for a work day, typically I eat a decent breakfast in terms of size, and I usually have something that's got quite a lot of protein, a lot of yogurt, or some eggs or something. And then probably why I raised eggs earlier, not the point. And then I'll usually have a smoothie with not much protein, a bit of veg, some various powders in there to help keep me going. Mm-hmm. Sometimes some protein powder, sometimes not. And sometimes a couple of almonds. And then I'll have a decent meal already prepared to eat when I get home.
Yeah.
But because of the time I start work, because I only tend to work at most 6 hours at a time, that just kind of meant that I didn't really get to eat breakfast before work.
Yeah,
so on non-work days, fine, easy. What it meant was that I was really full. Instead of eating a lazy breakfast at 10:30, I would, which I think is fairly late anyway, on a non-work day, I would wait until 12, eat then, and then I don't typically eat lunch on a non-work day, but I would be really full to the point where when I'd usually start eating dinner between 5 and 6, I was like, well, I can't even think about food. I'm still really full.
Yeah.
So it just meant that I ate a bit later, which I'm not actually sure is great for my digestion because my heart rate spikes after I eat and I go to bed quite early. Yeah. So it just meant that I was going to bed when my heart rate was still relatively high. That's fine. It just meant that I had to force myself to eat a little bit earlier. What a shame.
Yeah.
Having to eat. It's terrible. Work days were quite hard, or days when I had to be out. So typically every Saturday morning I'm with my mum down at a local market buying a fruit and veg, and then we'll have a cup of tea and catch up or whatever else afterwards. So I didn't eat until often 1:32 on those days.
Yeah, right.
And it just meant that when I did eat, if I didn't have immediately something before me that was easy just to shove in my gob, I just made bad choices. Or when I'd get to work, because I hadn't eaten, I'd eat my lunch straight away and then go, fuck, I don't have anything for lunch. Oh, well, I'll have to get hot chips. I could have probably found something a bit easier, but, I don't need a whole lot of red rag to bull. I love hot chips and they agree with my tummy and, I may as well.
Yeah.
So on one hand, they were good. If I had time to plan, fine. If I didn't have time to plan, it certainly meant that some of my choices weren't as good as I would want them to be.
How did you find it mood-wise? Because I know that people I know who've tried this, generally if they fall off really quickly, it's to do with mood and mental acuity.
I didn't find that, but if I was waiting till 12, I didn't find that I was that hungry or that crabby about it. I didn't get hangry or anything. I was happy to eat, but I wasn't like really just give me some fucking toast or anything. I don't know if my mood is that much dictated by food. Certainly, when I got my period or something, I'm more likely to eat chocolate. But I don't think...
And I totally understand that now after the vitamin B12 experience.
I don't know if it actually changed my mood at all, to be honest. What I did look at was a couple of different studies. So the claims about intermittent fasting is it's going to help you lose weight. And it's going to help you lose weight because it's fiddling with your metabolism. The idea is that it's your metabolism, because you're eating all the time, is slow because it's just constantly working on food. The idea is that, it works on the food you've got, and then it speeds it up because it's got a chunk of food all in one kind of go and then nothing to go on for a little while, and that can help you lose weight. There is also some very dubious claims that it will help your blood sugar levels and stuff like that, and therefore may help in preventing type 2 diabetes or something down the line. I don't think that's true. And I think it may, if it is true, it might be true for men and perhaps not women, because some of the studies I looked at actually suggested that for women, it actually changed their hormone production a little bit, and not for the better.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. So when you're producing insulin, how much you're producing, all that sort of stuff, as well as a couple of other in minor amounts, other hormones as well.
Yeah.
And certainly I have a family member who's type 1 diabetic, and I have a good friend who's type 1 diabetic, and both of them have said to me, outside of this, that it's not good for your blood sugar levels, certainly. Right. I mean, yes, they're having to drop feed in insulin themselves, but they're probably much more aware of insulin and how food works with insulin than your average person, on account of how that's what keeps them alive. And it wasn't really for either of them either. As I said, I didn't necessarily mention that I was doing it or whatever, but that's certainly the feedback I've got from them. For men, it might work better because your hormone response is perhaps not as quick to jump, I guess.
No, it's not as variable over time.
As women's are, generally speaking. It's not something that I found hard to do. I didn't lose any weight. I did it for a good few weeks. I didn't just do it for 2 weeks. And I ended up not doing it on work days because it just wasn't working with my energy levels. It just wasn't it wasn't helping. It wasn't perhaps hindering that much, but it certainly wasn't helping. But on other days, I certainly was doing it, kind of by accident, just to see what happened. And I certainly did not change at all in terms of weight. I didn't necessarily change the food I was eating. I kind of try not to eat too many carbs anyway, because I don't go to the gym every day, so I'm not going to work them off. So I try not to put in carbs I'm not going to work off to a certain extent. It didn't necessarily change, except for binge eating things because I was really hungry when I hadn't planned well. It didn't necessarily change the types of food I was eating. I think for some people it does, because they're having to plan their food a bit better. So therefore I think it can change people's diet and what they're actually consuming. I plan my food pretty heavily anyway, so it didn't really have that much of an impact for me. Yeah,
that's what I would have wondered. Yeah, I think it's I think a lot of these areas are when someone goes from a totally random, unfiltered eating life to something like this, to exactly as you said, like for the first time they've got some kind of thinking ahead to do with the food that's going into them. That's going to have a huge impact on their relationship with food, just really generally. And that's probably where you're going to see the most dramatic impact to do with things like weight loss or any other.
I think also a lot of people that do intermittent fasting probably eat higher fat and higher protein on their evening meal than perhaps I do. I try and eat, well, I just eat what I know works for my body, I guess, and I don't really eat per se. I do a protein, but in different forms, obviously. And I think maybe that has something to do with it. Maybe that keeps you fuller longer, which means that you're more able to plan better.
It's supposed to, yeah.
I mean, it is, but when you're also
certainly.
asleep, it's probably not going to do that much of a difference, I would think. I don't know. It's certainly, I'm somebody who sometimes, before I got CFS and stuff, I would often wake up, sometimes I still do, and go, breakfast, let's do it. That's the only reason I get out of bed, because I like food.
Yeah.
And I like breakfast, it's one of my favourite meals. And I certainly wasn't going, oh, I can't have breakfast, my life is really tough.
Yeah.
I just got about my day and then ate breakfast slightly later. It wasn't like it was removing breakfast, it was just pushing it to a slightly different time. And that didn't affect my mood, and I'm someone who loves brekkie. So,
that's really interesting.
Yeah, for me, mood wasn't really an issue. Yeah. So, give it a go if you want to. I would say if you're a woman, just be careful about what you're planning.
Yeah.
Because anytime also you eat, anytime you eat high fat, it's a slow release of energy for a long time.
It slows, it's your digestive process slows down, not just for the fat that you're taking,
but for everything around it
as well.
And I think when you're eating, because you're not going to be eating for 16 hours, you probably eat a bit more high fat, high protein. And I think that's probably why for women it doesn't work, because that buffers insulin to a certain degree. A high fat amount can buffer insulin, and because our hormones are slightly more ready to change, I think it may agree with a lot of women, but I think that's a much more personal thing. I don't think it's a broad spectrum thing. Yeah.
No, that makes a lot of sense.
I certainly didn't find that I was hangry. I would have thought I would be hangry.
Yeah.
But I
But it
wasn't.
is like, as with, I think, an awful lot of things, if you're really going to implement a change in terms of diet, like, I think it's really worth taking into account. It's not a small change that's going to happen in your life. Like, a lot of things have to be taken into account. And particularly, like, around, like, it's well worth thinking, in my view, about exactly what does your working life look like? What does your commute look like?
Yep.
Where are you going to fit in these meals? Because you've all of a sudden got pretty specific and quite constricted windows.
Quite rigid,
Yeah.
I think also, if you're not somebody that can be okay with setting a food plan for a week, sticking to it, maybe making too much of something so that you have leftovers the next day for lunch or work or whatever, then that's probably not for you. If you like to just eat whatever it takes your fancy in that moment, this sort of food, this sort of way of eating, it's just going to make you eat whatever's closest. It's not going to help you.
Yeah.
It's also probably not going to help you save money either, because you're probably going to spend more money
I
on
would
food
think
you don't
so,
need.
absolutely. Yeah. Like, it's good. They tend to be like prep heavy things that you're getting into.
Yeah.
If you're fundamentally, I buy pre-prepared food or from takeout, then again, it's going to be a tricky sort of ride for you, I would assume.
Yeah. So one of the reasons I probably kept on the non-work days kind of waiting till 12 is because, to a certain extent, I might be 11:30. I'm not rigid with it anymore. But, I've probably delayed breakfast by like an hour. And part of that is because then I'm not starting to get hungry at 3 o'clock in the afternoon. And whilst I don't eat lunch, I'll often in the afternoon have a piece of fruit or what fruit I can eat. So at the moment it's still Tangelo season, and it's my favourite season of all seasons because Tangelos are my jam. So even if I'm not hungry at 3 o'clock, I'll still have a Tangelo or two. But, in midsummer, there's not that many fruits around that I can eat that I like, and I just kind of go, what am I going to, maybe I'll have a corn thin or a corn cake or whatever. And that's probably not something that I need to be eating. I just enjoy eating it. So in that case, it can probably help. Yeah. So there you go. Intermittent fasting. Done.
While you, Dom, were starving yourself at specific times of the day...
I did often think of it, I've got to say, as intermittent feasting. Because I was like, I can eat however much I want for 8 hours. All the food!
It is a very positive spin to put on it. I instead was just starving myself essentially of one food group, one macronutrient, really, when it comes right down to it. So Again, like so many of the things that I attempt here, it was in a very non-scientific way, and it wasn't entirely or completely a success. But here's basically what happened. So I was trying to get as close to a ketogenic diet as I possibly could.
Mm-hmm. Which, can you please describe for the people at home what that is?
Sure. So if you think of the three macronutrients, which is protein, fat, and carbohydrates, a ketogenic diet is basically around about 60 to 70% fat, somewhere around about 30% protein, and as tiny amount of carbohydrates as you possibly
I think it's often called low carb, high fat, but I think there might be slight differences. But
there are loads and loads of variations depending on how seriously you take the no carbs thing, especially. Like, realistically, no carbs is a pipe dream. It's not going to happen.
Well, especially when there's carbohydrates in, say, vegetables and fruit.
Exactly. Like, it's unavoidable. But generally, I took it to be keep it as low as you possibly can. And then the weird, and to me anyway, counterintuitive thing is, I would have thought, healthy diet-wise, it's definitely got to be weighted towards the protein side of things. That definitely would have been my assumption.
I mean, fats are good for you, but, different fats do different things, and some fats aren't good for you.
Yeah, no, that's exactly right. It's just,
they just talk about high fat generally, I think, don't they?
Yeah, but I still think, well, I don't know. I think the people who were doing keto in the most responsible way are talking about fats in terms of medium chain triglycerides. So you're talking your coconut oils, your avocado, your animal fats.
I don't think coconut oil is actually good for you though. Like, I am on the fence of that it might actually just be a plain old saturated fat.
Yeah, I mean, it's going to take a lot of time because it's only been in vogue for a brief period as a big part of people's diets, really. So it's going to, I don't know.
I mean, having said that, I use coconut oil when I'm doing like stir fries because the smoke point is phenomenally high. Yay for me.
Yeah. So anyway, here's how this had to happen. To set out some of the difficulties for me, first of all, the only kind of meat that I eat really is kangaroo.
You kind of eat paleo, don't you?
Generally speaking. No, not really.
Okay.
Fee kind of does, well, yeah, kind of. Or aspirationally paleo might be a good way of describing her diet.
She's got paleo vibes.
Yeah. Generally, so basically it's like kangaroo is the only meat that we eat. We do that basically because it's guaranteed free-range, non-factory farmed. It's
environmental, ethical, etc. Yeah.
The way that it's harvested gives
there's less of them at the moment in some areas of the country than there often is.
True, but more of them we think than at any point in history because we've hacked down all the trees and created more grassland, apparently.
I mean, yes, but when you put a drought into that and no water source, they tend to die of this thing called dehydration.
Fair call, Tom. Anyway, that's the bottom line. That plus a certain amount of fish.
Especially when all the water goes towards farming and irrigation. Sorry, continue on.
We're Australians. We talk about water and drought quite a bit if we have any international listeners. But basically what I'm trying to point out is, if you're the kind of person who can just go egg and bacon mad, it's a pretty...
I mean, it sounds like...
Keto is not actually that hard to stick to. I found it relatively difficult. So what I did was, I had this 1 week opportunity when Oscar and Fee were away.
Do they count...
Touching your nose.
Yeah, I do that when I'm holding onto a thought.
Yeah. Let it out, Dom. Let that thought out.
Thank you, Misha. We're in a safe space. Well, it's my apartment, so I'd hope it's a safe space. Do they count generally, and they being the other in this situation, quinoa as a carbohydrate?
So it does have...
Because that straddles fence, because it's protein as well.
Yeah, it does have a relatively high protein count, given that it is a kind of it's not a grain, technically speaking, it's a seed. I think this is the argument. So I think the real argument to get into with keto is for the paleo people who are much more obsessed about whether something may have been in literally a Paleolithic diet. So you wouldn't want to, because again, like, here's the thing.
I made a face.
I was not, let's not even get into that.
Okay, no paleo.
I was not doing peeing on strips or doing breath tests or doing anything else to determine whether I was actually in ketosis.
Yes.
So that's worth a tiny explainer if you've never heard these bewildering phrases before. The basic idea is to be in a state of ketosis. It's one in which your body fundamentally is using fats as an energy source rather than carbohydrates, generally speaking. So...
Which...
Jesus, that's a complicated area to get into.
And it can really make your breath smell.
Yeah, oh yeah. That was like...
Because you can actually smell when somebody is in... It has a different... Your breath has a different scent. Yeah.
So, as I said, I had this week of no other family, so I could, be really eccentric in a diet sense and not have a huge impact on other people.
Was that the only way you went eccentric?
The key one at any point. The one that we're going to talk about here. So, here's the thing. Like, when you're eating kangaroo even considered as a game meat is ludicrously low in fat. Yep. Like 2% tops, generally speaking, no matter what you're getting. So, that was my kind of key protein source. For fats, what I was doing was, like, I was literally reduced to eating like a tablespoon of coconut oil here and there, just because. Because my other option was, like, once I was like, let's just crack and have bacon, which I did, and it was unfeasibly delicious, but I still feel dirty. Yeah.
You'll have nightmares for weeks.
No, I'm not having nightmares.
I do.
Like, longing dreams and wishing that pigs were free range and ethically farmed. That's the kind of dreams I was having. But anyway, so there was that, and then the rest was like things like avocados. Yep. It was eggs. Yep. So loads of eggs, loads of avocado. Again, as I said, just tablespoon of coconut oil from time to time.
Butter, my other favourite fat.
Butter.
Were you doing what on Instagram? I've seen a lot of people doing. They call it something, I can't remember what it's called, but it's coffee with like a tablespoon of butter and then cream, and that's how they have their coffee, which to me...
So I couldn't do that.
The mouthfeel wouldn't be great.
Yeah, I didn't do that. It was weird, but I did have, I did coffee with coconut oil in it. That's not great.
The mouthfeel, I imagine, makes it all wrong.
Just a little bit slippery and weird, yeah.
I think it would also send me to the toilet immediately.
Again, didn't really actually have that.
Fine.
And then...
You don't have a relationship with your toilet like I do. It's okay. They all have different things.
For me, the real challenge was I'm half Russian, I'm half Irish. Potatoes and bread.
Bread and dripping! You could have just eaten bread and dripping. Oh, actually, no, except for the bread bit.
You just could have dripping. That's the sad thing. So here's what I found difficult. Like, I would make a bolognese sauce and I would have, like, I would, like, just keep on peeling zucchini until it was into kind of strips. And same with carrots as a kind of bastardized pasta in giant inverted commas. Not great. Yeah. Let's be honest.
Courgettini is what it's called.
Oh, really? Yeah. That's so nice to know.
As in, like, spaghetti, but courgettes.
Oh, God. So, yeah, did that a couple of times. So here's, like, again, as I would say, if you have a conventional Western diet and you're okay with high-fat meats, like, you can get a lot of animal fats, and generally speaking, non-game animals are far, far, far higher in fats, so you're going to find it easier to do the protein-to-fat ratio. You're not going to have nearly as much trouble finagling it as I did. Yep. That's number one.
Did you include the fats in, like, nuts and stuff as well?
Yeah, but I don't eat heaps and heaps. How do you
get through a day without an almond?
I don't actually like almonds all that much. I love cashews, but cashews can make me a little bit cloggy if we want to get into body talk.
I think we're a bit late for that. Yeah. Cashews are the prince of nuts, but almonds are cheaper. So
almonds are definitely cheaper, but I just don't like them that much.
What about a Brazil nut? Are you a fan of a Brazil nut?
Not too much, although a Brazil nut does have my favourite impact of any nut of all time. Brazil nuts, if you eat them and your sexual partner has a nut allergy, are transmissible. You can send someone into anaphylactic shock.
That is an awesome fact.
Isn't that incredible?
You could be a murderer. And just how would they know that you murdered them?
Yeah.
That's so not what most people should have gone through when it comes to thought, but...
No. But all you have to do is pick your victim has to be someone with a nut allergy to Brazil nuts. But you eat them and shag them and they're a goner.
Well, that is certainly something to ruminate on.
Is that your O-face, sweetie? Or...
Ooh, I enjoyed that.
I was so good, he stopped breathing. And then he just didn't start again.
And he just never started, and I just quickly grabbed my shirt and left.
Yeah, so not a huge fan of Brazil nuts, just to drag it back to something that's vaguely
on topic.
Vaguely on topic. What I found was, with that, putting all of that together, normally my diet is definitely, like, probably if I had to make a vague guess at my macros, you're probably looking at close to 50% carbohydrates.
It's a lot of carb. You're probably a tiny, like, very sticky man. Not tiny as in short, just he's quite skinny.
And then quite a lot of protein and not heaps and heaps of fat. Just happens to be the way that I eat. Yeah. Ordinarily speaking. So this was...
What about cheese?
Again, like not in... Yes, from time to time, like I'll grate loads of cheese. But again, like I'll tend to eat cheese in meals that are going to be heavy in carbohydrates. So they're not...
Like halloumi on
percentage-wise. Like cheese on toast.
You could have just eaten saganaki every day. This is my dream diet, I'm realising.
Yeah, but saganaki, I'm not such a... Halloumi, I'm not such a fan of. Saganaki, I'm not such a fan of. Sorry. Dom was excited to hear that you can transmit anaphylaxis through sex when you eat Brazil nuts, but now...
Horrified! What is this person? Are you a human? I don't know.
So, actually, really, bottom line was I found it really tricky to get off the ground. Then there was how I actually felt. So, I don't think... If I really wanted to make a go at this, it's doable. That's what I discovered.
Yeah.
But, goodness, with the dietary restrictions, which are all, in my case, self-imposed, it would be a pretty monotonous diet for me, I think, ultimately. There would be, like, an insane amount of egg going on. Would be really cutting back on meat. Like, fish would have to go through the roof. Absolutely through the roof.
A kangaroo steak with an egg on top.
But it would have to be a small kangaroo steak because it's incredibly protein rich considering what it is. Anyway, like without getting too much into those kind of nitty gritty details, found it too difficult essentially to be sustainable. I guess that's number one, or to be sustainable without huge amounts of effort, which I just wasn't prepared to put in.
No, fair enough.
And then I found, I know this fades over time, but I was having real difficulty getting to the end of a work day. I was finding brain slowed down, speech was like borderline problematic towards the end of a couple of the days when I was about towards the end of the week when I'd been doing this for a few days.
This is where your packet of nuts that you took with you probably would have come in handy.
Definitely quite possibly, but I think again, like the amount that I would have had to be actually going through cashew-wise would not have been fun digestively.
Probably also not fun financially.
Yeah, well, yeah, that's right. If you're going the raw, I don't know what it is about cashews that drenching them in like seed oil suddenly makes them reasonably...
They go rancid.
Right, that's what it is.
A lot of nuts go rancid, especially if they've got oil on, because they're high in oil. And oil, if not kept at the right temperature, goes rancid. Walnuts famously go rancid almost immediately. Freeze them. Eat them frozen. They're still delightful.
There you go, people. Now you know how to eat walnuts, and now you know how to kill someone with a Brazil nut. What else? What else do you want from us? Huh?
LSA is better kept in... you know the LSA mix that you can get? No. Which is like...
What is LSA?
It's linseed, sesame and almond meal, I think.
Oh.
It's quite common in like health food circles.
Yeah.
Keep that in the fridge because linseeds go rancid super quick too.
There you go.
All full of fun facts here. All things I found out the hard way.
So like brain foggy periods were a big deal. What I did notice, and you noticed this really early on, or I did anyway, and I've heard this from other people, is when you're eating high fat, reasonable amount of protein diet, you do not feel as hungry as quick, and that's really dramatic.
Yeah.
I strongly suspect that the people who swear by keto as a lose weight panacea are doing it because they are just taking in fewer calories because they're not going to feel as hungry.
Yeah, they're just not eating as much.
So again, the kind of person like me, my standard lunch at work will be some sort of kangaroo and around about a cup of rice and some vegetables.
Yeah.
And that's lunch. And like a cup of rice carb-wise is again, like that's substantial. And I'm ready to eat pretty much as soon as I walk through the door when I get home from work. Just a few hours later. This was loads of eggs for breakfast and maybe like eggs, sometimes some kangaroo sausages with those for breakfast, and then
Kangaroo bangers, Misha.
yeah,
Kangaroo bangers.
Quite.
That's what they're called.
And then maybe I
name.
felt like lunch at about 2:00.
Yep.
It's like breakfast at 6, go to work, maybe lunch at 2:00. Maybe.
So if you combine intermittent fasting and ketogenic, you probably only need to eat one meal.
Like it's.
Which some people do that.
It's probably theoretically possible.
Like some people do combine them.
Yeah.
Which would blow my little mind.
Yeah.
Also, way too much thought about food, I think.
Yeah. I would, anyone who's interested in this, I would really look up Dr. Peter Bruckner, who is an Australian physician. His background is in sports. He's probably best known for two things at the moment. One is sports medicine. So he was the club doctor for Melbourne Football Club, then Collingwood for a while. Boo hiss. Then...
I was totally judging him for working for Melbourne. I'm like,
no.
God, they're shit. He mustn't have done a very good job.
Although he was in the rooms for, was it the 87... What was the one where Jim Steins gave away the free kick that... Anyway. Whatever.
Look, anything after 86 never happened until we won a premiership, and we used the Cats. Because that's one of my earliest memories, the 1986 grand final, which is...
Anyway.
Not 96, I mean 89, sorry.
Yeah.
I'm just having a moment.
Anyway, so in addition to loads and loads of sports medicine, Peter Bruckner is now part of this movement called Sugar by Half, which is an Australian initiative where he's managed to get together like a rogues gallery of food celebrities who all put, like, his idea was, can we get one thing that everyone agrees on from a health and food point of view? And one was, if everyone, no matter who you are, no matter what your sugar level is, if you cut it by half on a daily basis, it's going to be really great for you. Well, then don't eat the cord.
Go ahead and eat the cord. He's trying to take the Skittles away from my life and clutching them to me.
Don't do it, Mel.
He's not. He's just sniffing it. I mean, he may chew it, but I will attempt to stop him.
Yeah, so I would look him up because he's a fund of information on this sort of stuff. He's really big on not so much ketogenic diets, but just limiting carbohydrates to the extent that it's humanly possible.
Yeah.
As a kind of sports performance thing, he's also really interesting on the subject of how that impacts insulin sensitivity, how it impacts inflammation in various ways, so implications for osteoarthritis and various other things. Far, far better than, my sort of hackish version of what a week and a bit of trying really hard to do keto and then the rest sort of not trying very hard.
This is too hard, I can't be asked.
Thank goodness I can give this up now.
Yeah.
So he's a really, really good sort of standby. He's got a really, quite a big Twitter presence, links to lots of really fascinating stuff on his Twitter feed as well, so well worth a kind of follow and a check out from that point of view. Just like, as with so many things we encounter on this podcast, I would just watch out for the evangelical side that so many people have with this. The number of claims that you find about a keto diet.
Yeah, it's
not just weight loss, but, oh my God, it's got implications for your depression. I don't know so much.
I mean, because you're allowed to eat chocolate?
It scares me and worries me so much. I don't actually... Here's what I would say. As a kind of mood stabilizer, it is quite possible that if you are radically no-carbing your way through life, the way in which your brain is functioning and getting glucose is quite possibly a lot more stable than...
It's certainly going to mean you don't get hangry.
Yeah, it's a possibility. But again, like just in terms of your blood sugar levels, there's going to be less variability over a day, and that may have implications for mood stability. But that's a fucking different thing from saying
it's going to cure depression,
improve your clinical depression, and you can now think about maybe
suddenly bipolar not an issue for you. Shit like that.
Fuck. It just makes me beyond furious when people make claims like that.
Just because it's incredibly dangerous for people's actual lives.
Yeah. And it's not an easy adjustment to make. Like it's one thing to say, hey, maybe if we put these 3 things in place, we can start dropping. I'm just talking theoretically. We can start dropping your antidepressant dose. This is to say, like, you're going to hang all of your mental health hopes on, can I stick to quite a complicated and often very expensive diet regimen. Like if you are going to eat, especially because it like. I wasn't even taking... It just so happened at the time I was doing this, avocados were relatively cheap. Like, we're talking $1.40 each.
Were you just going to Aldi and buying the 6-pack of tiny avocados? Because they're relatively cheap per avocado.
Not in the areas where we live, Dom.
There's an Aldi right up there.
I know, but I mean, I'm in a slightly more...
You're not that far
refined area than...
Fuck off. There's nothing more refined than Aldi. Excellent cheese.
I just mean that our local supermarket, the price of avocados bounces
But
between
you shop at Leo's, don't you?
$6. Yeah,
You
exactly.
fancy fuck. Aldi all the way, bitches.
But anyway, it just so happened at the time that avocados were relatively cheap. You can at the moment get coconut oil for virtually nothing.
Yeah, for kicks.
If you don't care too much about where you get it from. And again, if you're going to eat eggs ethically, keto's going to cost you a fuckload. If you're going to eat lots of eggs.
Good ethical eggs are not cheap.
If you're going to eat fish ethically, same deal.
I don't understand ethical fish.
But I mean, to the extent that it can be, I don't understand ethical fish. I just think they're all bastards.
I did make a face after I said that. I don't think it came across as I meant. Whoops. Oh well.
Let's say you're going to go for pole and line caught, for example, if you believe that there is such a thing.
But is that better for the environment? Therefore, is it better? I don't know.
It's better than sucking up like a whole school.
Yes, but is it better than farmed fish, which is always poo-pooed? Surely that has to be better for the environment.
Maybe, but then the issue with farmed fish is very much the same as with farmed animals, which is to say that it's not as robust a creature and not as good for you when you're actually eating it.
And ethically has issues as well, because fish ain't stupid. Yeah. That's what I mean. I don't understand ethical fish.
Yeah. Look, it's really tricky. And then there's the other thing that, if you're going to get into fish from a keto diet point of view, you don't actually want to be eating the kind of fish that is most commonly eaten in Australia. You're not talking salmon, trout. You're probably talking mackerel, haddock, cod, I think.
Oh, it's pretty hard to get mackerel here.
Exactly. Because they're the ones where you're looking at...
Haddock?
Massive...
I didn't mean to come out
They're the ones with a really good omega-3 fatty acid.
Yeah.
Probably the only really accessible one apparently is sardines, which... not to everybody's taste. Dom just...
I don't eat seafood
Dom
anyway.
didn't
I've
make
never
a face.
eaten
Dom
seafood.
had a minor stroke.
Look, I felt like vomiting. I'm just going to put it out there. The memories of sardines from my childhood make me want to...
I would say it is more complicated than you probably expect. And again, I'm just talking, I was doing it by tracking macros.
Yep.
I was not peeing on anything.
Yeah.
I was not doing breath tests. I was not shelling out hundreds of dollars for blood strips. Because, by the way, the blood strips, actually getting at your own blood is not that difficult. Getting a sort of sticking device is simplicity itself. But the strips expensive. Are like $2 each. And
see, if you're type 1 diabetic, they give them to you for free.
Yeah.
If you get them through the diabetes people.
Yeah. But these again, and they can sometimes not read properly, so you kind of waste one.
Yep.
So you're looking at
wash your hands, people.
$14 a week to do that probably. Again, it's really, really complicated in a way that I sort of understood before I tried it. I could see trying to plan things out. This is going to be pretty tricky.
Yeah.
If I'm starting to take into account, I'm going to do this across all seasons, no matter what avocados cost. I'm going to do this ethically, fish and egg-wise. It is a really Gwyneth Paltrow goop level, insane cost diet. And I don't know if it's actually
worth it.
Yeah. If you're okay, and I'm not judging, but if you can do cage eggs, you don't give a fuck where your bacon comes from. And
then it's probably not that expensive, and
you might
good for you. You can eat bacon; it's delicious, and I'm slightly jealous.
Yeah, and again, under those circumstances, and if you're okay with sort of the kind of beef which people think of as being low quality because it's not lean, which is
that's not wagyu,
legit good
that's
for
super
you.
Expensive, but yes.
Yeah, but I mean, if you're okay with that kind of stuff, it really, really is doable. But I just found it ultimately. Two things worried me: brain fadiness for the amount of time that it lasted, and just the fact that it's not compatible with the kind of diet that I run.
I think my concerns with something like that is that it's demonising a whole section of food.
Yeah.
It's demonising an entire macronutrient or whatever. We've just kind of come out of the whole low fat is bad. And that wasn't good either. I'm not saying let's go back to that. I'm just saying anytime I think you demonise any type of food, it's not good for you.
Yeah.
And I think I don't think it's good for society. I also don't think it's good to demonise food in any form, to be honest.
Yeah.
We can discuss ethics and nutrients and all that sort of stuff, but to demonise something, I just can't see how that is causing positive change for anyone,
There are. Here's maybe the only thing that I will say, and this kind of gets into the arguments about paleo as well a little bit. I also think there's an enormous amount of inherited variability to do with foods that you're perfectly fine handling.
Yeah.
As a general rule, and I don't think it's an accident that you look at indigenous populations who all of a sudden take on a specifically European Western diet, heavy carbohydrates, and you see obesity rates spike, type 2 diabetes spike, cardiovascular diseases spike, and all the rest.
Yeah.
But that being said, I also don't think it's too much of a mystery when you look at European cultures who eat carb-heavy, dairy fat heavy diets that you would think on paper just cannot possibly be good for you, and for generations it's not only been perfectly fine,
but it also, I think when you have to look at that, you have to look at how often people are eating those types of food compared to probably now perhaps eating it a lot more, and the portion sizes being a lot different due to availability and stuff
and
as well.
No longer doing sort of subsistence level peasant kind of farming lifestyles.
Yeah.
Absolutely, all those kind of things come into play. But I think, again, like it comes back to, it's not as if carbs are the devil.
I don't think any food's the devil. I think it's all delicious except for seafood.
Yeah, but I think probably instead of deciding for yourself that you need a low carb diet or you need a keto diet, you probably, if like I had my druthers, you'd be thinking, what's my kind of cultural food background? And I think this is a question worth thinking about.
Yeah.
That'll give you a kind of picture of what has, like, literally, for sure, this has worked to sustain people until they reproduced for some thousands of years, right? That kind of cultural background.
I do think you also need to take into account some people there are some illnesses,
absolutely, and
thyroid issues and stuff like that can change your weight.
And if you're a celiac, and if you're...
Not just that, there's another one, I can't remember what it's called, but it actually makes you look like you're just obese, but actually it's that your hormone production in various ways is wrong and stuff like that. So those sort of people actually do very well on something like a high ketogenic diet.
Yeah.
But you have to take it at an individual level, which is what you're trying to say, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. And that way you sort of avoid, like if you're thinking about it in a much more systematic way to do with who you are specifically and what kind of dietary history, as it were, that you come from, you're going to be less enslaved to some kind of, carbs are demons,
this is the rules I have to live by,
or whatever.
Yep. But if anyone out there decides to go hardcore ketogenic and take some beautiful photos of their food, please add us on Instagram, because I'd love to see it, because there's nothing prettier than a lot of those foods, to be honest.
Especially
they're gorgeous
if you do
to look
pretty
at.
things with like bacon lattice work and various other things.
And usually there's a lot of nuts, and as I think we've all established, I'm a big fan of nuts. So alright, so I am a bit sensitive to scents in my environment. That is just something that comes along with my chronic illness. And I tend to also I like, using green cleaners or whatever. So I tend to often just use vinegar and water or bicarb because it's cheap. It generally does a lot of cleaning work. It's good for not terrible for the environment.
Yeah.
But the vinegar can get really overwhelming in terms of a scent when you're using it in your bathroom or something.
Yeah.
So up on Facebook a couple of times, like a year ago, I saw an ad for a group called EcoWorx, and there's a group of guys from University of New South Wales that developed this green, clean cleaning system or product. And I think the
like
liquid...
a product range.
Yeah, so they had their one product they developed, which is actual cleaning liquid, and then they developed ways to use it and within the range or whatever. To buy in for a basic mop, 5 litres of the product, a little spray bottle and some other bits and pieces, it's like about I think it was about $200 or something. And I was like, no. And then, 6 months later, I was like, that's a good idea. And now it's about $100. And that's like, no, I'm not. I clean for pretty much nothing. I'm not starting to pay for my cleaning. And then I can't clean my oven without using something either that's terrible and caustic for your hands, or that has a really intense scent that I can't go anywhere near, or that just makes it really hard work and that I can't actually do physically. And then I saw another advert a couple of weeks ago saying how great this is for cleaning ovens, and they showed a video, and I was like, you know what, fucking just gonna do it, because my oven is setting my fire alarm off and it's filthy and I've even tried to clean it, so okay, let's just do it. So I bought the mop, 5 litres, and a spray and some various wipes and stuff. Oh my God, it's the best thing since sliced bread. It doesn't have a scent. It doesn't smell of anything. I sprayed it onto the front of my oven, and then I used one of the kind of diamond sponges or whatever. You could probably use steel wool. It's probably a little bit more scratchy, but I think the similar sort of thing, I'm guessing. Scrub. Like, I sat down, put on a podcast, sitting down next to my oven thinking, oh, it's going to take like a dollop length podcast, which is like 45 minutes.
Yeah.
I didn't get past the ads, and the ads on the dollop is like 5 minutes.
Yeah.
And it was, the door of my oven was clean.
You're ad heavy. That's just what we're saying.
Yeah. No. I don't have a problem putting you guys put your ads in. I even listen to them because I like you. You know, I'm not complaining. But yeah, did the front door of the oven, which I couldn't see through before, and it cleaned. And since then, I've done other parts of the oven, obviously, taking out all the racking and everything. And I just used steel wool and soaked the steel wool in the cleaning solution, and then scrap. Took a little bit of work, but that's because I hadn't cleaned my oven in a really long time.
Yeah.
And it works. And the mop, I've got floorboards. The idea is that it's actually quite dry. It sprays a little bit of the product in front of the mop.
Yeah.
And the idea is that the friction, it's a tiny amount of product. You don't want a wet surface.
Yeah.
And the friction is what cleans it. Great. Worked like a charm. Cleaned, the soap's got off my shower door. Easy.
Yeah.
Oh my God. Why did I wait, Misha?
I don't know. Your evangelical passion for this product is entirely matched by one of my workmates who's exactly the same way about them. And in fact, once at on a slow and lazy afternoon at work, I looked them up. The only thing I will say about them is they are unbelievably cagey about what exactly
is in it.
The liquid is.
Yeah. No, they totally are. Because that's their cash train. And I get it. I wish I knew.
Yeah.
Because there'd be a level of me that would be happier, but they're very clear that it's not. You can put your hands. You can use it on your. If you get it on your hands, it's not caustic or anything. That sort of stuff. And so I kind of go, well, I guess I just got to give that up to them and just assume that they're not trying to kill me and cause cancer or something. Yeah. But there's a part of me that goes, I'm not sure I care if it causes me cancer, if it makes cleaning my oven that easy. Seriously. I thought the light just wasn't very good. No, that's just how dirty my oven was.
Yeah, that's really interesting. Well, I mean, you're getting me closer and closer to convinced.
I mean, I can grab it out and you can have a smell, and you can tell all the people at home that it doesn't actually... Because
deeply.
What really attracted me was the fact that it didn't have a scent. Because I'm so sensitive to scents, and because they give me such a headache, and not just a headache, they can make me really dizzy, they can just floor me for hours. And absolutely no medical payback from it. And even with... like bicarbonate vinegar, I get a little bit, nothing. And I was just absolutely stunned and amazed.
And let's be frank, like the green alternatives other than bicarbonate vinegar are pretty crappy.
They don't do a great job. They're still often got sulfates and stuff in them, which, I don't use on my own body, so I'm not quite sure why I'd want to use it in my home, that sort of stuff.
The really citrus heavy ones, again, you've got the scent problem no matter what happens.
And I love citrus scents, but that doesn't mean I can cope with them that often.
Yeah. I mean, you can use like eucalyptus oil if you've got a lot of wooden furniture, but again, like that's gonna how clear do you want your sinuses to be?
It's not that versatile. Whereas this thing, it's really versatile. I still use my vinegar and water to clean my benches in my kitchen because I've still got it. It's fine, whatever.
Yeah.
But when it runs out, I'm not sure I'm going to refill my vinegar and water thing. I'm probably still going to use my vinegar because every couple of months I will do a wash on my dishwasher and wash on my washing machine that are just cleaning washers with a bit of bicarb, bit of vinegar, having cleaned out filters and stuff. I'll still use it for that. But I probably wouldn't need to. Yeah, I was such a non-believer. I actually went on to a group that is a CFSE kind of group on Facebook and was like, hey, these are the claims made by this. I'm really sensitive to scents, that a lot of us are. Has anyone else used this that is sensitive to scents? Because they say there's no scent, but I straight up don't believe them. And a couple of people got on, they were really evangelical, but they were very clear that, no, it doesn't have a scent, didn't set, and I am sensitive to scents, it didn't set me off. And I was like, well, then it's worth the risk, I'll give it a go. And then I went back to them and I was like, oh my God, sign me up. I'm evangelical with you guys. It's fucking great. It is, because it also just, it's effective. It actually just cleans. Yeah. Which, how? I think it might be black magic. And I'm fine with that.
We are, like, I just want to say, we have at this point been really lovely to, like, at least one business and 2 products. And I just want to say, just want to emphasise once again, Aquaforce, 5Zen Camberwell, and now EcoWorx.
Their system is called Co, but I think it's the brand is, I'm pretty sure, is EcoWorx.
Anything shortpod@gmail.com. Just drop us a line.
Please hit us up. But, you know, I've got 5 litres of shit. I'm good for ages, but you may definitely want to try it.
What I wonder if we're going about this.
It's not like we're trying to get affiliate codes or something.
That's true.
We're just trying to say, guys, this is
about
good.
Freebies for us.
No, I mean, it's all about us. No.
And I wonder if we're going about that in entirely the wrong way. We shouldn't be, like, praising them to the skies, first of all, because we've given them effectively free advertising.
You want us to challenge them? Except that they're good, and I want people to know that they're good, especially if you've got a chronic illness and you're sensitive to scents. Fucking try them out. If you have, you know, they're not cheap, but even if you don't want to buy the whole system, just buy some of the actual liquid and their little atomizer spray thing. You can probably put it in any spray bottle, but I don't really know how it works, so that's why I was happy to go with their spray bottle.
Black magic.
Yeah, black magic, totally. Because they don't tell you how it works, and they don't, so maybe it needs a special bottle. I don't know. Look, the bottle isn't particularly a classy bottle, but it does the job. Like, it's not got the best sprayer on it. The mop is actually pretty decent in terms of easy to use and easy to store. Once it's put together, you don't have to break it down. It'd probably be easier if you could break it down, but I don't need to, so it's fine for me. Yeah. The mop is pretty decent quality. Yeah, I'm
sold.
Look, so am I, Misha, in case you hadn't picked up on it. So I got it set up for about $100, a bit under.
Yeah.
$100
That's
including
really,
shipping,
when you think about, for something that's like, because I don't know, like, what would it...
5 litres would last me ages as well. Yeah. Like, that's the reality. I've done half of my bloody home by now. I haven't done all my windows yet. These are the next ones to do. And I still haven't refilled my initial fill up of my little atomizer spray thing. So it lasts a while. Because you don't need a whole lot of product to get the job done, because it's magically effective.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right.
I think it probably can cure cancer.
So what I've taken out of this is either we're going to find out that it
causes
cancer,
or it cures. I'm on the fence, and I'm happy to be on that fence.
But it's definitely one or the other. So, Dom.
Yes.
I don't want to be personal.
I think we're beyond that. Misha.
But what I'm going to challenge you to is tongue scraping for the next little while.
I have heard that it's good for ensuring you don't get stuff like colds, for bacteria and stuff. I've already had a cold this season, so probably a little late in the party, but happy to give it a go.
Let's see.
And if we're going on the theme of mouths, then there's this thing called, I think it's called pulling, which sounds like something that you should be going, no, when your mum or your wife, whoever, some sort of female person walks into the room while you're doing it. I think it's actually putting coconut oil in your mouth for an extended period of time, swilling it. So I think you have to get it softened in your mouth and then swill it in your mouth.
In absolutely no time.
Yeah.
So,
That's what I mean, softening it, melting it, whatever. Because it's meant to be good for your teeth, and it's also meant to be good for, I think, your immune system in some vague, unrealistic way.
Well, look, if I know anything about coconut oil, I know that it does just everything.
It has cured everyone of every possible illness at this point. Yeah, so I'd like you to investigate that for me.
That sounds good. I like that.
It doesn't really sound that good to me.
Well, it sounds better than, like, taking a scrubbing brush to my tongue. So I feel like I'm a winner.
I don't know.
In this scenario.
I just feel like that's one action. Oh, maybe it's not one action. Oh God, I got to investigate this. Anyway, we're going to go off and investigate and generally work on our mouths.
We sure are, and we will see you next time.
See you next time.
Thank you, dear listener, for listening. A few words in these litigious times before I tell you how you can get in touch. Anything short of a coffee enema is not intended to be and should not be used as a substitute for advice from medical and psychological professionals. If you want to get in touch with us, and we would love to hear from you, you can email us at anythingshortpod@gmail.com. We gratefully accept suggestions for future challenges and books and other products to review. Or you can heap upon us criticism and abuse. If you wish to heap abuse but find yourself short on time, we recommend Twitter and Instagram, where we go by @shortofapod. If you like what you've heard, on the other hand, leave us a rating and a review on iTunes. Tweet about us, or, like the common cold or herpes simplex, spread us by using your mouth.